Thank you.
All right. Sadie, do you want me to call this meeting to order?
Yep.
Okay. I call this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Sadie, can I have roll call?
Counselor Abels,
Present.
Counselor Dunsmuir,
Here.
Counselor Gates, Counselor Strobel,
Here.
Counselor Tenbush,
Here.
Mayor Drinkline. Okay, we have a quorum.
All right. Please forgive me. I've never presided over a city council meeting, so I ask for patience tonight, but we're going to go on to our first opportunity for citizen and community group comments. Before we get to anyone else's comments, we do have an overview and an update of FEMA response and recovery process that is going to be given tonight by directors of FEMA. So I will hand it over to Sadie, who will hand it over to FEMA.
Yeah, I'm bringing them in as we speak.
Sadie.
Okay, is that Gregory O'Reilly? I see, and then
Jerry, Mike. Yeah, so you guys can take it away if you'd like, and I'll just continue to bring in the other members.
Okay, I will start off. This is Greg O'Reilly. Good evening, Mayor, Council, residents of Estacada. Thank you for inviting FEMA to participate in your regular City Council meeting. I'm Greg O'Reilly, FEMA External Affairs. As an intergovernmental specialist, I'm assigned to support elected officials at the local, county, and state levels as Oregon recovers from the wildfires. FEMA, together with our partners throughout the state and in Clackamas County, have made positive progress in our service to the people of Oregon. We are focused on our mission to provide support at the state, local, and local levels to help the residents of Oregon to recover from the damage caused by the wildfires. While the COVID environment and our strict federal COVID safety guidelines present a certain set of challenges, it is certainly not hindering FEMA's ability to execute its mission to help Oregon in the recovery process. FEMA is currently assisting both virtually as well as FEMA's traditional proactive boots on the ground approach. As of today, FEMA has over 380 personnel deployed in person and virtually to support the residents of Oregon. Over the last several weeks, FEMA has conducted an individual assistance blitz campaign throughout the counties impacted by the disaster. We are striving to reach all wildfire survivors, anyone impacted by this disaster, and encourage survivors to apply for FEMA assistance. As of this morning, 23,198 individuals have registered with FEMA. In Clackamas County, as of today, the cumulative total of registrants is 2,100. Disaster survivor and individual assistance specialists are engaging directly with survivors to help them understand available programs, answer questions, and apply for assistance at designated registration intake sites. Registration is open for all affected by the wildfires in Clackamas. There are several ways to register. Survivors may apply by visiting a registration site, online via disasterassistance.gov, by calling FEMA at 1-800-621-3362, by using the FEMA app, by going to our FEMA website, www.fema.gov, or by going to the Clackamas County website, www.clackamas.us/wildfires. Importantly, there is a deadline of November 16th to register. So we encourage all those impacted by this disaster to register with FEMA and to stay informed. For the benefit of those participating in this meeting, We have several subject matter experts here to address FEMA-related programs. Importantly, FEMA is here for the short, medium, and long-term partner. For long term, we are your partner. This is not a sprint, this is a marathon. FEMA is committed to the citizens of Estacada for the long haul. This evening, we have Federal Coordinating Officers TJ Dargan and Tony Raines, Individual Assistance Specialist Dean Carney, Hazard Mitigation Specialist Jerry Frye, Branch Manager Mike Beeson, to address any questions. I'd like to defer to TJ Dargan if he's on the call. Or,
Greg, I don't see TJ in the
okay,
attendee
we
list.
have, we have Tony Raines.
Okay.
Unmute yourself,
Tony.
Tony.
Yeah, Tony, you're muted.
There it is. How's that? All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tony Raines. I'm the Deputy Federal Coordinating Officer for the disaster in Oregon. Work for Dolph DeMont, and he sends his best wishes. Just to touch on and to finish up a little bit with what Greg was talking about. And Greg, thank you for that great introduction. FEMA to date has over 400 personnel working on this disaster. We have 385 staff on the ground. We do have the outreach center in the county, and it is open and serving your citizens. We do have as Greg touched on, have wished that and asked that people apply for assistance with FEMA utilizing the 1-800-621-3362 number, 1-800-621-FEMA. They may also apply utilizing the disasterassistance.gov or the mobile app on their phone. There are individuals standing by to take their calls, register them for assistance from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week, Pacific Daylight Time. A couple messages we'd like to pass on to folks who have been exposed to the wildfire, and that is register for assistance if you've been affected. 2, if you've had a fire in and around your property, please look at obtaining flood insurance. One of the dynamic effects that follows flooding or fires in cities that have been affected is flooding, and mudslides do occur. So we ask that people look into getting flood insurance as a additional mitigating factor to risk in the future. And lastly, we'd ask that to help us pass the message about be alert to frauds and scams that are occurring in Oregon to disaster survivors today. There are people out there who are acting as aid workers, charity workers, government officials, or contractors, taking advantage of those who have been already suffering because of this wildfire, and now they're being addressed again. We'd ask that if you could copy down this number and give this to your constituents if they believe they are subject to an attempted fraud. That is 866-720-5721. That number again, 866-720-5721. That is the disaster fraud hotline. And then there'll be someone there to take their information. And also, please advise your citizens that if someone's attempting to defraud them, please let local law enforcement know also. We want to team together to make sure that recovery continues for the citizens here in Oregon. With that, I will open it up to your questions.
Thank you very much. Do any counselors wish to? Paul?
Hey, thanks for being out here. I really appreciate the services your folks are providing for us. Specifically, what are some ways that people are coming to you? What are some specific ways that you're helping people out here?
That's a great question. We turned on the program the date of the declaration for individual assistance. So when a person applies, we immediately talk about the damage to their home and they're talking to someone on the phone. If they did apply via the mobile app or disasterassistance.gov, then we called them back to have that conversation. We talk about the damage that's occurred in their home. For most people, fires are pretty much a black smoking hole, or it generally bypasses them. For those individuals that suffered smoke damage, there is assistance with that. But those individuals who suffered greater levels of damage, then we take that information, we verify that the damage occurred, and then we make the awards. So they're receiving that direct assistance for their housing. If they're displaced from their property, they would also have received rental assistance based on their family composition at the time of the disaster. So we're sending more money out for them. We also make available to them the SBA program. The SBA to date has distributed out over $24.2 million in loans to those who have been affected by disasters. So an individual may receive that application. We encourage them to turn them in. Even if they're denied assistance through the SBA, that turns on other programs within FEMA for those citizens where they can receive even more additional assistance for potential personal property losses. For those who have suffered the greatest loss, the loss of a family member, we do offer those benefits to them, sir, to help them through that time. For funeral assistance, we also will help with medical, dental, if there's any injury sustained as a result of that. We do also offer disaster unemployment assistance that was made available for the citizens of Oregon. So if they were made unemployed as a result of the fire, then that was made available to them. The state of Oregon did apply for and receive the Crisis Counseling Program grant earlier this month on October 15th. And so those services are being made available to the individuals should they be suffering some stress and anxiety, which is totally normal in this event, that they could have those assistance also.
Tony, out of curiosity, that crisis counseling you talked about, I realize that the greatest need would be with those who lost loved ones or lost property. I guess my question is, would it be available to anybody who was emotionally affected by the evacuations? I've had some people reach out to me and express that they might be experiencing some PTSD-like symptoms from the act of evacuating and maybe seeing the fire, encroach and things like that. Would that counseling be available to anybody in those circumstances?
Yes, ma'am. Anybody who's been affected by this event, both those disaster survivors and responders, would be available to call up and receive that assistance for that program and help them walk through that event with them.
Thank you very much. Any other counselors wish to ask any questions? Kimberly.
I'm just curious, I'm curious what you can tell us about any additional assistance or what we can expect in terms of removal of debris or hazardous materials around Estacada, and what that process looks like, and what kind of timeline folks can be expecting.
That's a great question. Debris removal is a state program that they are utilizing to do that, both the hazardous waste and personal property debris removal, or that debris that may be on the public right of way. So I would yield, is there any member from the state here, from state OEM?
I can touch in real quick. I know Clackamas County has, they're participating in the state's program, so they've specifically stepped up to participate in the program. So they may be sending people out to individual households to explain their services to the households.
Yes, and what I can offer is, ma'am, I'll take your question to the state and ensure that we get back with you and provide you with the information on that program to you.
Tony, we do have Jerry on the line here, I believe, who may be able to touch on the flood and hazard mitigation.
Yeah, as Tony mentioned, the Flood After Fire is a big campaign that we've been working with. I've been actually working boots on the ground in Jackson County until last Friday. I returned to residence of record in North Carolina. So I'm in North Carolina. It's about 10:30, 11 o'clock here. So just FYI. Greg has some information that I have shared with him, and we've provided that information to Clackamas County, Lynn, and Marion County, I think it was. Is that correct, Greg? But anyway, he can forward all of that information to a central point, and you guys can disperse it however you want to do it. Again, there are QR codes that talk about defensible space, fire-resistant materials to rebuild, and things of that nature. But again, as Tony mentioned, the biggest elephant in the room right now would probably be the flood after fire. Even though it's kind of dry in Oregon currently, it's at some point it's going to pick up the pace and it's going to rain. So we're going to see a lot of mud flow and a lot of sheet flow on the land, even if you're not in a special flood hazard area. So just be aware of that. Make your citizens aware of that. And thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Jerry.
Does anyone else? Paul?
Yeah, one more question. Could you tell us how you work with homeowners insurance? So if somebody has a homeowners insurance claim, I know you guys do some partnering and some helping out in that area. Can you tell us how you work with homeowners insurance?
Well, thank you, Greg, for reminding me there were some real experts on the call with us today. I'd like to introduce you to Dean Carney. Dean works the Individual Assistance Program. And so I'll yield to Dean for that. But it's a great question, Paul. Thank you. Dean.
Thanks, Tony. First of all, thank you. And also thank you for offering up your city hall. We have staff in the Estacada City Hall right now in an external outreach site, which is open to the public Monday through Saturday, 8 to 6 p.m., 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. As far as insurance goes, even if someone has insurance, let's say they have homeowners insurance and it does have fire as the cause of damage, if there are things that their homeowners insurance does not cover, we'd really encourage people to register with FEMA and to come on in. And when they do get their insurance payment, send us a copy of it or come on into the city hall and submit a copy and we'll take it in. If there are things that are not covered by your insurance, we can cover. We can help sometimes with those things. The first one that comes to mind is there are things which we consider uninsurable items like wells and septic tanks and drain fields. And in a serious fire like this, you can melt wiring underground. It can destroy wellheads. It can destroy pump houses. It can destroy things that weren't covered by your homeowner's insurance. And so FEMA's individual assistance program can help with that. Many times your homeowner's insurance may have additional living expenses, but sometimes it doesn't, or sometimes it's limited. It's, let's say they can pay for 30 days and individuals can be out of their home for a lot longer than that. We can help. We can pay rental assistance for up to 18 months from the date of the disaster. So there are things that even if you're insured and even if you're well insured, there are things that we can assist with in individuals and households program.
And to take that one step further, if you don't mind, Paul, we have worked with the State Insurance Commissioner's Office and facilitated meetings with communities just like this one and or counties to answer any or all homeowner questions that you or your residents may have. So we would be more than happy to facilitate a meeting like that. All you need to do is just give us an invite. And I'll get my insurance specialist to work on that. And we'll take care of it for you.
All right, wonderful. Do any other counselors have questions? No, okay. Well, thank you very much to all of you from FEMA, and thank you for being here for Estacada. We appreciate your presence. We appreciate everything that that your agency does for our people. So thank you again for being here. I guess we will move on then to continue our citizen and community group comments. Sadie, do we have anyone that would like to make public comment today during our first public comment period? By the way, if you are a member of public and you want to comment, just raise your hand in the Zoom function. And I think, how do you do it if you're calling in?
*9.
*9 if you're calling in. So,
Yep. So yes, we do. We have, I'll bring Joel Lidke in first. And if you could just state your name for the record and address, and you have 5 minutes, Joel.
All right. Hey guys, how's it going? Can you hear me okay? I'm in a different computer today than normal.
yep, you're doing good.
So a couple things. Actually, I'll have to feed my questions with them directly. So the first thing I want to bring up is temporary housing in the area. Since the fire has happened, there's been people that are staying in RVs and stuff because they don't have a house. They're trying to work out their rental locations or something. And they've been getting tickets from the city telling them they have to leave, have to move and stuff. Can the city take into consideration, or the council do something to give a moratorium on people having to relocate their RVs and stuff during this time when people are trying to recover? Last thing they need is to get a ticket telling them they have to move and find a new place to go when they're residents of the city. So can you guys take that into consideration, please, and figure out if there's a way to fix it? So that's the first thing. The second thing is earlier in your workshop, I was watching that. And as far as the community comments and responses, as a citizen, I think when it comes down to making a comment or something, I get you guys don't always have the answers right away. Most people want time to think about that. But nonetheless, to at least have some sort of feedback, even if it's hey, I don't have the answer for you right now. I can't give you a solid answer. Let me find that information and get back to you. Something, at least let's the citizen know, hey, we appreciate, respect your comments, and we're listening. We're going to try to get some back to something on that. Or if you guys have a solid answer, write it. But that's just my feedback from the earlier that you guys were talking about today. And I think that's the only things I had to talk about.
Thank you, Joel. I guess you didn't have many questions for us, but we appreciate you and we appreciate your time, and good luck on Tuesday.
Thanks.
Okay, Katie, we have Brooklyn Gaith.
Okay.
And Brooklyn, if you can just state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Brooklyn, hi there. Yes,
All right.
you have 5 minutes.
All right, perfect. Hi, hope everybody is doing well. I know that in the workshop that you guys did kind of talk about questions and whether or not they're going to get direct answers or not. I'm hoping for some direct answers, but if you guys do want to take time and think about it and address it later, totally understandable. So I'm just going to get into it. As of today in the United States, there have been 8.7 million cases of COVID-19. 42,000 of which have been in Oregon. By now, this pandemic and its deadly effects are and should be well known to everybody. There was an event in the heart of our downtown. I think it was last week, maybe the week before, the Wildfire Heroes Day, put on by KeyBank and sponsored by the city of Estacada. We've known about COVID-19 for nearly 8 months now. I'm wondering why, when safety protocols are so common knowledge by now, why none were enforced or required at this event.
Denise, would you like to chime in on this one at all? Just because I, as a city councilor, never made any decision to sponsor the KeyBank event, and so I'm going to let Denise take this.
Yeah, so we have approved a couple of events, including a parade that happened the very next Saturday. And on those approvals, we put that they have to comply with all COVID mask wearing and social distancing. We really don't have a way to enforce that unless we call OHA at the time of it and they can get out here to see that. But we did decide, I sent a thing out to the council after that, and that we won't be approving any events that we cannot guarantee that they aren't going to do that, which means the only events we can guarantee are the ones that we actually do. So now we won't be approving any parade permits, even though they say they're going to be, or events like that. So
And
yeah.
Denise,
Mhm.
can you just speak really quickly as to how much of the event itself we sponsored as a city?
Yeah, so pretty much the city, what the city did is they bought the banner. But we didn't have anything to do with naming it or putting it on or doing anything like that. But we did purchase the banner for them. And we provided some bags that they were going to hand out to the people that showed up that helped with the fires. They were going to have stuff in the bags. And I don't know if they handed out any or not, but that was kind of the extent of our sponsorship. So
Okay.
Thank you.
but we are going to be looking more closely at those and not approving anything probably
Perfect.
until there's more to know about COVID. So
Yeah, because I feel like just my concern and everybody's concern is that there were a lot of people in attendance, and we do have a very large community of people that would be at risk for COVID, and I would just hate for an event like that to turn into something horrible for our town, especially after we just went through the Riverside fire. I think that
Yeah.
we've had enough at this point.
You
So
are
I would just
correct
hope
there.
going forward that everybody can be a little bit better about wearing masks. And I think it would be best. I know that Mayor Drinkwine isn't here. I was actually hoping to ask him some questions. But I would hope that going forward, our city officials can be a little bit better about wearing their masks in public, especially when photographs are being taken that are representing our town. I think that in light of everything that's gone on this summer, I think that continues to put out a negative image of Estacada. And I don't want people to think of us as this ignorant town that is so behind the times and can't listen to science, that can't, follow these very, very, very basic measures to just protect each other. I would like for us to get better about that and put a better visual of ourselves out into the world.
Thank you very much, Brooklyn.
That's all I had to say.
Can I say something to Brooklyn before?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Brooklyn.
Hi.
I wore my mask almost the whole time.
I
didn't
know,
know the
you
picture was
did.
being taken. I was
You were
trying to
the
eat a
only
burger.
one. You had your on until you ate.
Yeah.
You're a good one. You always wear your mask. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brooklyn.
Okay, Katie, we have Frank George, I'll bring in. And Frank, if you could state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much for giving me the time. Though some things have come up in this process that really need addressing, I'm gonna let them be addressed by other people, hopefully, and just talk a little bit about what concerns me most, which is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Just wanting to give some comments on that. Oh, and by the way, my name's Frank George for the record. And is it my address that you guys need? Okay, 36333 Southeast Divers Road, Estacada, Oregon, is my address. So let me just pull up my notes here. So I think as I've been talking to community members and city government candidates, some questions have come up about what the vision of the committee will look like. And as somebody that is hoping to apply to serve on that committee once it is officially established, I feel like just voicing some of the things that I feel that committee should be focused on once it is established, which I have faith that it will be, to hopefully, whether these ideas are already being in circulation with you as the council or not, hopefully you can take them into consideration. Some things that I think are very important is to, as roles for the committee, is to be evaluating demographic impact of any and all future approved development plans. So, and that goes beyond race, that goes into what is the economic impact on different classes that live within our community. What will establishing new housing developments do for our residents of all types of backgrounds to ensure that those are equitable choices being made. I think that it's very important that we are looking at the first responder policies, whether that's fire, any type of police, should contracts be reinstated with neighboring towns or a department be established, to make sure that the way that those responders are doing their jobs are racially sensitive and economically sensitive, trauma informed. I think also coordinating, I think that it should be a role of the committee to ensure that all city communications that are put out by the city are provided in bilingual forms, to make sure that we are addressing our Hispanic population, at least, if not more. Just making sure that that is accessible to all of our citizens within and outside of the city limits. I feel that the committee should also be focused on ensuring that all city staff participate in a third party, what I call personnel directed diversity training. So that is not a training that can be conducted from your home online, but rather in a small group discussion-based setting, to ensure that the democratically held values of our society are being followed, being expressed, and that the ideas of diversity training is really being instilled in all of our city officials, because it's really easy to just click stuff on computers and then get a certification. So I think that the committee should be at least involved in somewhat making sure that that is done. I really also feel that it should be a role of the committee to release public reports on the state of diversity, equity, and inclusion to our community, independent of any elected city officials, to ensure that it is not politicized, because it seems that today in our community and in our nation, basic human rights have become a political issue, and something that city officials who are up for election should either comment on or not comment on, depending on roughly what party they align with. And I think that that does an incredible disservice to all of our community, whether diverse or traditional, whether they are Caucasian, whether they have another race, whether they are poor or rich, of another sexual orientation or another religion. It does an incredible disservice to have those people's rights and making in the insurance that their rights are protected being put on the line for an election. And I think that the rhetoric of some candidates for city government indicates that some are okay with making it a political issue when it's not. So I think that that should be an independent thing that is put out by the committee once it's established, that is not influenced by politics. And then I think that, honestly, I think that if I were to be serving in that position, I would want to be available for any person who works for the city government to be available for a personal, like, non-intimidating conversation just about how your communication as a city official, who, any of you, is perceived from different perspectives, and just having that conversation and dialogue so that we can all model what it looks like to grow in understanding and our inclusivity of our own minds and lives, to model that for our citizens, because it seems that those conversations are difficult to be had for so many, especially in our town, and that I think that it would be very important for you all as city officials to be modeling that. I don't know how I'm doing on time. Oh, Sadie, you're muted.
Yeah, you've got about 10 more seconds.
Okay. And lastly, I do think that it's I'd be interested to know more about what sign company was utilized for the purchase of that banner for the event. And also, going on communication, I think it's misleading when the city insignia is put onto the flyers promoting said event, because it looks rather like it's an equally sponsored event. So hopefully you guys can address that as well.
Thank you very much, Frank, George. And does anyone wish to speak on anything? No. Thank you again so much for coming tonight. And thank you. I encourage you to apply for the DEIC, and I look forward to hearing your ideas in that committee as well. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank
Sadie,
you.
do we have anyone else?
Yes, we have Kristi Maret. So Kristi, if you could state your address for the record, and you've got 5 minutes. Oops, did you?
Oh, Kristi.
There she is.
Muted again. Kristi, can you unmute yourself? Kristi, you're muted still. If you're on a laptop or a keyboard, I think you press the space bar. Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you. All right, Kristi, please state your address and then you have 5 minutes.
So I'm Kristi Maret. I live at 481 Southwest Nymph Road here in Estacada. My question about, Denise brought up about the parade that was the Saturday after the Heroes. So as far as I know, we did actually use protocol as we were all in our own vehicles. So that should not have made a difference. Nobody was walking together. We didn't do any of that. So I'm not understanding why the parade was even brought into this equation when it shouldn't have been.
The parade was included in the letter that said they'd gotten complaints. And I wasn't at the parade, so we didn't have to answer anything, but I was just saying someone did complain about the parade and said it did not follow guidelines. And I'm not saying it
I was there. Right. It was just brought up and that's why I was asking. Because, you know, I was there and we all individually were in our own personal vehicles, which I'm pretty sure we don't have to wear a mask in our own personal vehicles, but maybe I'm wrong. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that the parade did follow protocol rules.
Thank you, Kristi. And I can agree with that. I was also at the parade in my own vehicle, or actually I was riding an ATV with my boyfriend, but I live with him, so that's okay. But otherwise, you're absolutely right. I was there and I did see that COVID-19 protocols were being followed as everybody was in their individual vehicles and not within close proximity to each other. So thank you for your time on that one. Did you have anything else you wanted to say during your 5 minutes?
No, I just wanted to make sure that people knew that we did follow protocol.
Thank you, Kristi. I appreciate your time tonight to make sure that that was clear for the record. Sadie, do we have anyone else?
Yes, we have Nicole.
Thank you.
So Nicole, if you can state your full name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Nicole, you're muted.
I think
There you
guys, can you hear me
muted.
now?
Oh, there we go. Okay.
So my name
Yes.
is Nicole Gardner Austin. My address is 287 Northwest Carey Street in Estacada. So I just wanted to say hello to everyone. And my first question is regarding, I don't know if you guys have any ethics rules about city councilors or mayors endorsing candidates that are running for current elections. There has been some topics of conversation regarding that and some endorsements made, and just didn't know if there was any rules on that or if that was something that could be brought up at another workshop or meeting to be addressed at a later date.
I can answer that for you, Nicole.
Okay.
The mayors and city councilors can endorse publicly anybody they want, any candidate, any measure. Elected officials are not held to anything that would say they couldn't do that. Employees are the ones that cannot do that. So public officials can do that.
Excellent. Thank you for clearing that up, Denise. I appreciate it. My second comment was actually, I wasn't going to bring up the parade, but since Kristi did bring that up, I will say that I also attended the parade, And, like she said, people were in their personal vehicles and, she's not sure of the protocol on mask wearing as far as that goes. But, I guess if you're with your immediate family in your vehicle, that would probably be fine. However, I was, on the side of the road with my daughter watching the parade and watched everybody go by. And, there was quite a few people that were in mixed company that were not immediate family members that were riding in vehicles with each other. So that is a bit of a concern, people riding in the bed of a pickup right next to each other. It was clear that it was not all family members of immediate families riding in vehicles. So just wanted to bring that up since I also attended the parade and was there. And so I think that's just about everything I have to say about that, other than good luck Tuesday, everybody. Get out there and vote.
Thank you
Good luck.
very much.
Good luck to you on
And good
Tuesday
luck
also,
to you
Nicole.
on
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, we have Jay Simmons. So Jay, if you can state your address, and you've got 5 minutes.
Unmute. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Jay.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was there
All right.
at the
Take care.
parade as well.
Oh,
And
Jay, can you?
Yep.
Oh, so sorry. Can you please state your address for the record?
oh yeah, 359 Southeast Main Street. Estacada,
Thank
Oregon.
you. All right. Now
Yeah.
you have 5 minutes, Jay.
Okay, yeah, I was also at the parade, and I was in the back of a truck, and the person with me was my wife. So, yeah, that's. I just want to say that's. I was with immediate family. So.
Okay. Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you,
thank
Jay.
you.
I appreciate
All
your
right.
time. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Sadie, do we have anyone else wishing to speak? Oh, thank you,
Yes.
Jay.
We have Deborah Buffton. So Deborah, I'll bring you in, and if you can state your address, and you've got 5 minutes.
Hi, I'm Deborah Buffton. You may know me as the Executive Director of the Estacada Area Food Bank. I live outside of the city limits, so I'm not speaking as a resident of the city proper, but I am speaking as the Director of the Food Bank, which is inside the city limits. My address is 35920 Southeast Trail Drive in Estacada. I want to commend the council for its movement to form the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. As the director of the Estacada Area Food Bank, we see many inequalities in our city, and whether they are intentional or not, they exist and they're here and they are everywhere. And I think the DEI committee is a great and terrific first step towards looking at how everyone within our community can be treated with the dignity, respect, and independence that they deserve. So I really appreciate that movement on your part. I was disturbed to hear that there was a lot of speaking out against that. So I wanted to be sure that my voice was logged as supporting that movement. And thank you. Thank you for that action. I think it will help us develop and become an even better Estacada. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you for saying that on behalf of the committee. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say to Deborah? Thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you, Deborah.
Oh, there.
That's all. Just thank you.
Thanks for all your time.
Yes, thank you again.
Okay.
Sadie.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. Well, if you do want to speak during the next citizen and community group comment, make sure to raise your hand. There will be a second opportunity. So we will move on to our consent agenda. Have you all had an opportunity to review the consent agenda? Now I am going to throw out there, I'd actually like to move the approved contract for Overlook Park play structure down to council business and remove it from the consent agenda. Is everybody okay with that? Yes. Are there any other changes to the consent agenda?
I have a change to the minutes from the council meeting on October 12th. At the top of the third page, I'm attributed a comment that says the DEI would not be able to help in the operational sense of an emergency, and I would like that to be changed. The DEIC would not be asked to help in the operational sense. There may be folks who are fully capable and able to assist, but it would not be a key charge to work on the operational aspects of that committee.
So noted. Are there any other changes? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the approved contract being moved to council business and the changes to the minutes as Councilor Abels just noted?
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion passes. Consent agenda approved. We
We
move
have to
down
vote,
to
Katie.
the department and committee report.
I think we have to
I'm
vote,
sorry.
Katie.
Do we have to vote? Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. This is my first time. Okay. So yes, we consent agenda approved. We move down to the department and committee reports. So first we have a Clackamas County Sheriff's Office report in our packet. We've all had a chance to review it. Is there a member of the CCSO on the call for us to ask any questions of them? No, not today. I did appreciate them being at our last workshop. I did notice that we haven't had the demographics of police initiated calls included yet. I will just note that I look forward to that being included in our reports in the near future. I realized that that was a pretty recent meeting we had with them and they might not have had the opportunity to add that, but moving forward, I just want it noted that we look forward to seeing that statistic. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say about the Sheriff's Office report in our packet? Okay, then we will move down to the committee, commission, and liaison reports. Has anyone had any meetings that they liaison for or committees that have been meeting that they'd like to give an update for? Jerry, yes.
Well, I haven't had a meeting since our last council meeting, but I just want to basically speak to the appointee that we just approved during the consent agenda. I think she's going to be a great asset to the city of Estacada and especially the arts community and the Arts Commission. So, you know, I think it was a really, really great choice by the Arts Commission and then again by us. So she seemed like a pretty awesome person and very educated when it comes to the arts. So, and a published author. Pretty cool. So, all right. Thank you. That's all I got.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jerry. Yeah, I'm very excited to see her contributions to the Arts Commission as well. It sounds like there's some movement happening in that council that I'm really excited about. So yeah, thank you. Anybody else have any commission reports?
I did want to do a quick note. I don't know. Can you hear me? Okay. I don't know how many folks were able to attend the League of Oregon Cities Conference, but there was a lot of really good items in there, and I was able to network with a lot of key folks from the LOC that I think it would be super beneficial for us to continue to work with. And also because that conference was virtual, if you did sign up for it, you can still access a lot of the workshops and webinars that were given. And there's a couple in there that I think would be fantastic if this group could commit to going to watching and being able to get a solid foundation in several key concepts. You know, moving forward after fire, small cities, how do you do DEI? How do we value our volunteers and counsel on social media?
Perfect. Thank you. Paul, did you have anything you wanted to? Nope.
No, I think I bumped my mic there.
Oh, okay, thank you. And then we'll move down to the city manager report. So I'll let you have it, Denise Carey.
Yep, I'll just give you an update. We have begun our after action review for the Riverside fire and the Dowdy fire. And we sent out staff questionnaires to do the internal review. But on November 2nd, we have our community facilitated review where community members will be able to give us feedback on their part about communication, the police presence, and after, getting home, what was needed and that type of thing. So that will be on November 2nd. And then we're trying to, on November 16th, have the council and agencies, which would include the fire, the county, the police, and the school, to do that after action review on the 16th. You have a meeting on November 9th, and your November 23rd meeting is normally canceled because it's so close to, it's the same week as Thanksgiving. So, but we thought November 16th is on Monday night, and we're used to Monday night. So that's what we're trying to set up for the agency review. We're trying to get Ford Foundation to facilitate that review for us. So those are the 2 dates coming up to look over what went well and what needs to improve for a next time review. And then I just want to update you on, even with COVID and this year, I mean, we've had a lot of crappy things happen this year. And so I just wanted to give you some information that is kind of uplifting. And in Estacada so far this year, we have given out 115 single family resident building permits. So the building has just kept going regardless. And we're getting new citizens, which you can tell by the people watching the council meeting. We have new people in town that are interested in the town. And that's really exciting to have that type of thing. We also have had 3 new commercial/industrial buildings that we have issued permits for. So that's another good thing. Our industrial park is growing, and there's a lot of movement out there, and they're all different kind of industries. It's Matt's doing a really good job at helping those people find a home in Estacada. And then I just wanted to let you know that the 6th and Main Street CDBG project will be starting soon. We have all the paperwork done with the county. Hassan is finishing up the plans, and then the county administers this. So we aren't even the ones that go out for bid, but they use our engineer. So we have a contact. So they will be going out for bid for this project so we can do it. I'm not sure when their start date is. I'm not sure their timeline, but it's exciting that that's going to be done. And I'd like to get it done before school goes back in person. So, so that doesn't mess up that intersection. So those are some positive things that we have going on.
Denise, I have a question related to the after action report. I know there's a couple of different community groups who are also getting together to do community-based after action and have kind of good conversation. I just want to make sure there's a good mechanism that we have to get the reports that come out of those also into our city after action, and to make sure that they get all the different community groups that are coming and are giving us feedback. Everything will be weighed equally and considered whether or not they can come to the city facilitated discussion. Or
I know of one. Is there more than one that you know of?
I think that I've seen 2, but one of the other ones might have been first responders, and then the one that was community. But I just want to flag that to make sure that we are incorporating those into what the city will put out.
Yeah, and the county is, they are beginning to get theirs set up too. So, because a lot of people are Estacada community members, but they're in the county. In fact, everyone that's house burnt is in the county. So we are going to have some of the answers for them, because they have to deal with Clackamas County and FEMA. But we're interested in learning what they thought about the communication from Clackamas County too. So yeah, we will. I'll see if I can find that second one too. So.
Yeah, I saw Clackamas County put out their survey related to communication and public alerts. So that will be super interesting to see how that worked.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Denise, can you give us more information on that November 2nd meeting? When is it? Is it open to the whole community?
It is. I mean, yeah. So, there's really no way. A lot of people, even though they live outside the city limits, a lot of people don't realize that. They don't, we can only respond to things how it happened inside the city, officially. But yes, everyone is welcome to speak at that. But for our plans and our things, we really need to focus on, you know, how we can serve the citizens here better. But definitely, we're going to forward on anything we hear to the county, and they'll vice versa. And I don't know. I think the time is 5 to 6:30.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, good.
And it'll be another virtual meeting like this one?
Yeah,
Yes.
and the Zoom information is on our website now.
Okay, super. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. And thank you very much, Denise. I look forward to that after action review. I think a lot of people do. So if there's nothing else, we'll move on to council business. Items may be added from the consent agenda upon request of the mayor or councilor. So I did request that the approved contract be lowered down here. And I guess we'll just throw that on to the last. So the first part is National Forest discussion regarding wildfires. And we have a speaker that would be David Bugney. Now, my understanding, David Bugney is the gentleman that wrote the letter that we discussed briefly at our last council meeting. We asked him to bring it back as council business so we could ask him more questions and really talk about whether or not it is something that we want to put our city information on. So I will hand it over to Dave Bugney. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I will leave it to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. I didn't really prepare anything new. Otherwise, I'm just here to answer any questions and perhaps give you an update on what I've been learning so far since our last Zoom meeting.
So I know that one of the things that I took the greatest issue with from your first letter was the idea of kind of developing a task force that would decide to shut down access to public lands during cases that you would deem sort of on an emergency basis. Now, my biggest question for you is that really a good, positive first step to take in addressing a concern to prevent something like the Riverside fire from happening again?
Well, it's probably, you know, I think there's probably various steps here. And I think the first thing would be to recognize that humans are causing more and more wildfires. And so, you know, we have to figure out, well, okay, if that's the case, you know, you need to have a source of ignition, you need to have a fuel, and you need to have oxygen, right? And so, you know, all these things are exacerbated by the climate and drought conditions that we had and more people going in there. And so the thought was to at least get these folks together with the community to have us involved, you know, whether it's our city councilors, you know, or the, you know, city county commissioners, whoever it is, because otherwise what I would be concerned about is that the Forest Service would just retroactively or proactively decide on their own what those criteria are. And from what I've learned from so far, I called the San Juan National Forest in Colorado, and they just started doing this back in 2018. And they did it again here, as you probably are well aware, given their calamity they've experienced. And they're going to be sending me more information, but because they're understaffed and overtaxed right now, it probably wouldn't come for another week or so. But anyway, the fellow I talked to said that they learned their protocols on how to do this from national forests in Arizona and New Mexico. So it seems like this isn't a one-off, that this is something that, you know, fire adapted communities are having to recognize as something to at least consider. And so I think given that, I suppose one has two choices. They either do nothing and just let things carry on as they are, or try to figure out how to best, you know, get involved and develop some sort of criteria that says, okay, you know, if you have a certain wind speed and sustained wind gusts and drought conditions, whatever these fire experts say, and you, let's say, temporarily close down the forest for a week or two, that's going to be a whole heck of a lot better than what we got right now, because you're going to be, the forest, a good part of them are closed down for months or more. So that's not really helping anybody, you know, to have it blossom out to 140,000 acres. So, you know, I think that was just the thought. And one last thing, just for information, is that Clackamas County has taken interest in this, and their policy analyst Trent Wilson is currently looking at this as well. So, you know, I think it's something that at least should, you know, I think garner some attention and some scrutiny just to see if it's worthwhile pursuing or not.
I appreciate that. Do any of the counselors have anything that they'd like to ask or add?
David, just could you remind us what you're asking of us again then? I mean, quite simply, it's to specifically, I guess, what are you looking for from the council?
Specifically, it's just to be a co-signer to this letter. It just basically says to the Forest Service. I mean, ideally, given the amount of folks involved, potentially, I thought, well, we could get some of the surrounding cities in the county, but given the wheels of government and all that, it might be easier just to have Clackamas County, if they're interested in signing on, and Estacada be the main co-signers of the letter. I would sign it, but I'm a nobody, Yeah, but basically governments that are representing people to sign on to it and say, okay, we would just like to sit down and have a talk to find out how feasible something like this is. We would like to become involved in this. We meaning the city, local government, and county government, so that this isn't something that's just, like I say, proactively taken up by the Forest Service alone, or maybe we're not even on their radar screen. Who knows? But I think it's, there's no harm in asking the questions. That's the way I look at it.
Jerry, you look like you have something you'd like to add.
Well, I don't have a question to ask. I just want to basically state that I fully support starting a conversation. I fully support starting the conversation. It might not be as simple as closing down the national forest, but if we can help start the conversation, if we can help get this initiated, I honestly feel that good will come out of it. Better than 140,000 acres burned. I think that if the conversation is started, even if it's not, even if it doesn't get to the point where we shut down the access to the national forest, I think good will come out of the conversation. So I fully support endorsing the letter just to get the conversation started.
Kimberly.
Thanks, David. Sorry.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I second what Jerry said, and I want to add that I feel like this is just one tool in our toolkit, this task force, and just because I think if this is something we sign on to or ask for, we still need to keep moving and keep pushing and looking at, what are our forest maintenance at the state level and where can we push on that aspect. And I think that everybody's in agreement that there are several levers that we can pull, and this is a good one for us to make sure that Estacada is involved in the conversation. It doesn't move ahead without us, and that shows that we are looking for answers and we do want to be involved and we are interested in the decisions that are made. So I also would endorse signing onto the letter.
Same, agree.
Let me just add that, what you said sums it up perfectly. I mean, this is obviously a multi-stepped, complex process, and the way I approach problems like this, as Denise knows, is you try to pick the low-hanging fruit first, the stuff that's relatively easy. I think something like this should be relative. Most people agree that if you got people causing fires, what's one simple solution? Try to minimize that impact. But the other things certainly need to be addressed down the road, but I think they're going to take more time, like more intense forest management, this sort of thing. As we all know, once you raise that issue, a whole bunch of people start to come unglued, and I think that could really gum up the works. And that's why I suggest decoupling these things and just approaching one at a time and staking what's probably, in my view, the easiest thing first.
Thank you, Dave. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add or ask of Dave Bugney? I guess I will close out by just saying in my statement that I don't believe in creating a task force of people to decide when to limit access to public lands is a good first step, nor do I think it's a good productive conversation to be had. I would like to continue people having conversations about proper forest management, proper forest maintenance, better emergency response, but a task force to decide when to close down public lands. I'm just too afraid of that being overly exercised you know, that's my biggest fear of something like that, which is why I just have a really hard time supporting it, which is why I'm sorry, but I won't. But we can bring it to a vote if that's what you would like us to do this evening. Denise, is that what you want us to do? Do you want to do a roll call vote on this?
We don't need a roll call, but yeah, we should bring it to a vote.
Okay, so
I think Dave is looking for whether we want to endorse it so he can move on or not. Yeah.
okay, so as a city council, do you, I will pose the question, do we support signing the letter written by David Bugney to be a co-sponsor in the letter as the city of Estacada?
I guess you need a motion, so I move to approve endorsing the letter by David Bugney.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I am myself opposed. So
Motion
yes,
passes.
that would be a no from me. And then, so we'll move on to the, thank you, David,
Thank you,
Bugney,
David.
for your time tonight. So we will move down to the second consideration for the DEI committee ordinance. Does Kimberly or Denise want to start this off? This is our second consideration of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusionary Committee for the City of Estacada. Anybody have anything they want to say before we ask for a motion?
We don't really, I mean,
I don't
unless you
have
guys want to
anything more
discuss
to-
it. Oh, sorry, Denise.
I don't have anything more to say, but we passed it, all of our ordinances have to go before. Is this the second consideration, Sadie?
It is the second consideration with the amendment that you guys made the first time, adding people with disabilities.
Right.
Okay.
So unless you have questions, which Kimberly will answer.
Well, I guess, go ahead, Katie, if you have a question.
Okay. I just wanted to ask a really quick question about, let me see, I guess that would be under the responsibilities, letter D. Provide input and advise the city in the development of a strategic plan to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion among Estacada's government and communities. I've been doing my research on other cities' diversity, equity, inclusionary committees, and I learned that those types of strategic plans could actually cost some money. Is this something that the city is currently working on or is this currently what we're in the process of doing? If not, how soon are we looking to do that and how much money are we looking to spend? Was my question.
So we haven't made any decisions on doing that yet. A lot of cities are doing that at this time, doing a strategic plan. As I read this, once we decide to do that, this committee would be involved in that process. But we have not discussed when we would do that or how much it's going to cost. I have no idea how much it costs. On these type of things, you have to put out an RFP. So once this committee gets formed, I think they would be looking at what are the things that we can do to make our city better at doing, and one of those they would probably recommend we need to do a strategic plan. And at that time, we would look at how much is it going to cost? Do we have the funds for this and that type of thing? So nothing's been set in stone about the strategic plan yet.
Okay, and then I guess my couple more questions that have come up since the last meeting. The committee shall report to the city council at least 4 times a year and provide minutes of each meeting to the council. We don't have any other committee that does this on this regular of a basis. Is this something that we're thinking is going to be beneficial? I mean, if we already have a liaison to the council to report back to us what the diversity and equity and inclusionary committee is working on, is this level of correspondence necessary or overkill?
So all of our committees, the minutes are provided every packet to you guys of the committee meetings. So that's done. Most of our committees do have that criteria in their responsibilities, and we have not held them to that. And I think it is a good idea to quarterly have the committees come to you guys. In fact, that was something that next year I was going to bring up, that I think that should be a goal, to be to be sure that we're pushing those committees to come before you at least quarterly, so you guys can know what they're doing and know what's going on, and bring that communication better with the council. And especially, we haven't lately, but in the past, we've had some problems with the liaison going to the meetings. And so it really didn't always get back to and for those committees, they kind of felt like they were just out there, but they have a responsibility too, to come to you guys quarterly. So I think we're gonna really look at that this next year and try to be sure that that happens.
Thank you very much. Yeah, because I was looking at the planning commission as it's written in our city ordinance, just to kind of compare this ordinance to that one, and I didn't see that level of correspondence written as part of our municipal code. So
The commission is a quasi judicial committee. They aren't a typical city committee, so they don't have that in theirs. Yeah, their decisions come to you, but they don't. So
okay. My last concern is, so again, I've been doing so much research and looking at like the LEDIC that's at the county level, as well as comparing, the DEICs that would exist, or at least their equivalent of them in other cities in the area, as well as the ones, in Portland right now. And I'm kind of wondering if the member roster that we're looking at is going to be the most productive member roster for the kind of results that we're asking them to produce. I only say that because it does look like in a lot of the other diversity and inclusionary committees that are out there, the people that are having this conversation actually have some sort of a role within the city that they can take the information back to, whether it be affecting the hiring practices within the HR, or anything to do with what Frank George was saying earlier about like creating housing for people of different socioeconomic statuses. So that was one question, is this the most appropriate member roster? Do we want to have general community members getting having the most input, or do we want to really look to people who are going to have the greatest impact within our city once they take this information, and any of the policies that might be developed from the DEIC and actually do something with it. In addition, I feel like the responsibilities listed in B for our own ordinance that's being proposed is a little bit restrictive. And I think that kind of came up last time we talked about it, when we were like, well, what about people with disabilities? Well, when I look at it now, I'm wondering about people with different socioeconomic statuses. And I'm just wondering if it might just be too limited and not as inclusive as we were hoping for in the wording. So I just want to share with you the one from the Clackamas County Leaders for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council as a really great example of a statement that can be included in our ordinance that would be more inclusive to the purpose. The council strives to examine county processes in order to recommend and facilitate changes that foster equity of services and greater inclusiveness, develop leadership from diverse communities, and increase community participation in county government. Council members are meant to be representative of the community's diverse populations, and ideally will represent different ethnicities, religious beliefs, geographic locations, socioeconomic statuses, physical disabilities, career experiences, educational backgrounds, and or other diversity. I just feel like that language is a little bit more inclusive, and it's not really singling out any group in particular to make it look like, well, we'll include you if you can fit into one of these bubbles. That was one of the things that I've heard expressed to me as someone who looks at the list and thinking that as someone who might not be BIPOC or LGBTQ plus or any of the other things, I feel like the diversity that my socioeconomic status as a single mother would also be considered diverse, but yet I wouldn't be included in this. And I just feel like when we're talking about diversity, to leave out the people that would feel like we're not being inclusive of them would be counterproductive to the conversation. So I'm wondering if maybe we should change around some of the words to be a little bit more inclusive than they are right now, before really putting this in our municipal code and really running with this. I want to make sure that we're considering all possibilities of people that might be left out or feel left out by the verbiage we're choosing to use in our ordinance.
I have a couple of things. One, that you had two very big items there. So the first one, as someone who sits on LEDIC for the Clackamas County, I can tell you that that group, none of the people who sit on that committee actually work for the county or are there as a representation of a city or government official, but all of our recommendations go to the liaison to then do that work, to work with HR and to work with that policy. And as that's typically how these community-based and these general community committees work. Is that's why we have that strong liaison and that strong counselor connection, so that the recommendations that do come out of that committee do have an advocate and can be moved forward, which is different than like an internal. If the Estacada City wanted to put together their own diversity committee for city staff to look at their internal policies. And how what the culture is inside City Hall, I think that's a totally different conversation than the one that we're having for this community group, and how do we bring more community into the conversation. So I think there's a little bit of a nuance there that is important to kind of call out and to note. To your second point, we went back and forth about what B would state, and one of the things that I think was super important to us was that it was like I've noticed on some other committees, like position 1 has to be in the school district, and position 2 has to be the person who's representing, a renter. And I think that it's really important that this committee does not get into that level of making folks self-identify to what under our historically underrepresented group they're identifying with to fill that seat. And so I feel like this will be one where the applications are going to tell us a lot about the folks who want to participate on this group. I love the Clackamas County, that language. And so as we are kind of thinking through all of these and who we want to represent, I don't want to think that this list, maybe it's adding, historically underrepresented groups. That's why I think we put in such as, but not only. That doesn't mean you have to be in one of these groups. These are examples of groups who are historically underrepresented in Estacada government and Estacada conversations that we want to make sure we're drawing in. So I think, we went over this list so many different ways. And I think if we want to add socioeconomic, we can, but I do think that key point of such as, not only, I think is the key difference, and allows for several different groups to come in, even if you don't see something specific that you think ties you in.
Thank you, Kimberly. Paul, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I thought you brought up some good points, Katie, and I appreciate you addressing those, Kimberly. I do like the more broad, encompassing descriptor there that the county uses. It just seems to be more open, I guess, than listing out things, listing out the various folks represented specifically. So I'd be interested in other, Jerry, maybe what your thoughts on that are as well too. I think, do we want to revisit that or just move forward with it as it is, knowing that it says such as on there, which does provide that openness?
I think the way that it's written, I mean, we've changed it once. We already approved it. I think the way it's written is, I mean, it's good. I don't have a problem with the way that it's written. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to just move forward with it.
Thank you, Jerry. Paul, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm good with that as well too.
Okay. So does anybody else have any questions about this? I will open it up for a motion.
I'd like to motion that we accept ordinance, oh, I lost my number now. The ordinance from Estacada 2020-003 to establish the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee as to our municipal code.
We have a first. Do we have
I
a
will
second? Okay. We have a first and a second. Questions on the floor. Everybody in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. All right. And we are now on to the approved contract, Overlook Play Park or Park Play Structure Purchase and Installation. Now, I did ask for this to be moved down from the consent agenda into council business, and I'll give my explanation as to why. First of all, when I was reviewing the Estacada Parks Master Plan, we do not have an Overlook Park. Is that what is being referred to as Regan Hill Park or the Regan Hill Neighborhood Park? Denise, you're muted. Denise.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. I was looking at the stuff weird. Yeah, so we haven't really named this part yet. That's another thing, but it's on Overlook Court is where it is. So this is the Regan Hill. It's in Regan Hill Acres. Yes.
Okay, the Regan Hill Heights Park. So I have a couple of questions about that.
Okay.
Because normally when parks business comes to us, it comes to us with a little bit more of a pomp and circumstance kind of presentation, especially when we talk about a park that's underdeveloped right now. So that park, do you know if it's in an HOA or a planned HOA?
It is not in an HOA or a planned HOA.
Okay, so that's good. My first question though is the plans that were submit to us in our consent agenda, that is not an all-inclusive playground that can accommodate for children with disabilities, correct?
It is the people that did this were the playground people, and it is all inclusive. That's why the ramps are in there. The ramps are in there to enter where the two entryways are.
Okay, so there's one there. I didn't see any down below, but that being said,
two entryways there. Yeah. One from the trail and one from the road. You see where the wheelchair accessible thing is?
Yeah.
There's one ramp there, and then on the back side is another ramp.
But then there's stairs like the minute you get to the center of the thing, and I'm not even seeing a picture of the ramp. Doesn't look like the ramp goes very far onto the structure itself.
If you look in the picture that has the circle, if you're looking at the picture that has the circle,
yeah,
it's got you can see the two ramps and the handicap accessibility, and then the ramp going up into the play structure right there, right next to the handicap signal or symbol.
Yeah, that's the ramp.
Yeah, so there's two ramps coming in.
I'm okay. So is this going
coming
to be
into the play structure?
And
I'll stop.
Well, okay, so Jerry, I'm looking at the picture right now.
Yeah, I can't see that. Your background has killed it.
Sorry. So, well, you have the picture in your packet. So I'm looking at view B right now. And view B, what I see stairs, I see ladder, I see slide, I see like a fireman pole, but with steps instead. And then I see a rock wall. And then when I go to view A, I see a ladder, a slide and rock wall. I don't see a ramp actually.
Okay, so continue on, or maybe it's the first one past the certificate. It's the first page past the certificate. Okay, it's the drawing. All right, the plans, the actual plans.
Yeah. And I see the handicap.
I can't see your picture, Katie. Your background is your virtual background is stopping us from seeing.
So then I see the handicap circle there. That's the handicap circle. I see that.
Right.
And then one ramp that will go up to a 3-foot square, but then nothing else. And then that 3-foot square actually leads to stairs and a slide. And a child with accessibility issues is not going to be able to use the slide or those stairs. They're going to be limited to that one 3-foot by 3-foot.
No, that
flat.
continues on. That continues on to the next section that has the 5 by 5 by 5 triangles. That continues on to there, and I'm not sure if that's a bridge or what, but you know, it's very likely that it would continue on to that next section. I understand they're not going to be able to use the slide, you know, but the structure is accessible to ultra-abled.
And each of those squares all have like activity panels around them, so there are other ways for folks to interact if you can't.
But those activity panels are limited to the top level. I'm looking down, and there really are not any activity levels at the ground level itself. You have to be on the play structure itself or higher up in order to use them. I looked up the playground itself. Like I looked up the model number and stuff, and while it is rated for kids 2 to 12, it's not actually all-inclusive play. There is a difference. There's a special certification that all-inclusive play gets. And seeing as how, let me see, I've got the Parks Master Plan in front of me actually, and I was trying to get their goals out here. Estacada's future park system goals, here we go. Develop and maintain high quality, varied and accessible parks and facilities for everyone's enjoyment. I just don't feel like spending money in a park where we don't know enough about the playground equipment that's being purchased. Again, normally we'd have like some sort of a presentation by the playground company at least to tell us about the equipment that you want to spend $60,000 on. And for me, I just don't feel like this is inclusive enough for us to even meet the first goal in our community, in our parks master plan. There's just not enough information for me to actually say we should go ahead and move on with this purchase. I realize that you guys are talking about a grant, but at the end there's a deadline for the grant. But I looked at the certificate that was provided. The grant is from the people that are actually selling us the equipment. So most of the time that's called a discount. But I mean, for me personally, there's just not enough information here for me to say, yeah, let's spend $60,000 on a park that I don't know who can use it or who can't use it. If it's in the middle of a neighborhood park, but we don't know if the rest of Estacada people are going to have parking spaces to go and use it too, or if it's just going to be in the middle of a neighborhood where the neighborhood kids are the only ones that'll get to use it. There's just not enough information for me, and I'm sorry, I can't.
This is a neighborhood park. It's not a city park. It's a neighborhood park.
So it's a neighborhood park and not a city park, and we're looking to then go ahead and purchase the playground equipment for it.
Yes,
but it won't be a city park.
So the council goals were to develop more neighborhood parks. Was part of your council goals, and we've been working on this for quite a while. And this went to the Parks and Rec Commission, I don't know how many months ago for approval. They actually sat down, picked out these, amenities for this park. It's a neighborhood park, just like the Cazadero Heights neighborhood park. And in subdivisions, we've been requiring neighborhood parks now because the idea is that you want to have parks walking distance for these communities so they can go take their kids and go to a park and not have to drive. And so this is a neighborhood, classified as a neighborhood park. And when I say it's not a city park, it is a city park. It's owned by the city, but our designation of city park is the Wade Creek Park and the Campanella Park. Those are city parks. And community or neighborhood parks are this one. There's a new one going in and a new subdivision on Lawrence, the Cazadero Heights neighborhood park. And then there's a small one going in up at Cascadia Ridge. In fact, we're working on the Cascadia Ridge one also we have put irrigation in there and grassed it, but we haven't got as far as this part in meeting with the neighbors and what do they want to see. And that one will be working with an HOA, although the HOA won't own the park. But this is a neighborhood park. We did the survey, as you can, see, we put the survey out and,
and like 30 people replied.
Out of about 100, so it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty good feedback. So anyway, yeah, so we're getting and the grant is from the people that are providing it, but the original amount for just the structure was almost 50,000. And now this 56,000 that we will pay includes the installation, which is very expensive, all the amenities and the ground cover for it. So we do still have to do, as it said, the cement work and the landscaping, but I think it'll be a pretty nice park but of course, if you guys want to, wait and look into other things, that's fine too with us. We can do that.
I just feel like I haven't been personally given enough reassurance that this is going to be a fully accessible park. And when you talk about the footing and stuff, I know that footing can make a tremendous difference as to the accessibility of a park to a child, let's say in a wheelchair or with another handicap. I just want to make sure that we are choosing the play structures that are going to be the most inclusive, and I just don't feel like this is the play structure. And I would really like to have next time more of a presentation from the people who know about this play structure most, because when I look at the pictures, both view A and view B, I don't even see a wheelchair ramp. It might be on that little blueprint that Councilor Tenbush was pointing out, the one with the circles. But when you look at the 3D rendering of the play structure, it's supposed to be a 3D rendering of what that play structure is going to look like. And none of them have ramps, and all of the play stuff is at the top of the play structure. And I just don't feel like this is inclusive enough for me to say that we should move forward with it. So, but I will, if any counselors have anything to add or any questions, or they can make a motion and put it onto the floor.
I have a question. Denise, did you say that this did go to the Parks and Rec Commission and they did recommend approving it?
Yes, they approved all the structures that are in this. Yeah, they approved it a while back, and then we got it in the budget, and then now we're bringing it to the council. Yeah,
okay.
we did put $150,000 in the budget for this park to get this park developed.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Being relatively new here, so in the past we would have Parks and Rec presenting, and would they be the ones that would be able to say if this is a fully accessible park? How do we determine that?
Yeah, any park we built, I really haven't seen it go to the council. I know this Cazadero Park was never to the council, so this is the first that, I mean, I would have done a presentation. I didn't realize that you guys wanted a presentation, because she would have certainly been happy to come in and discuss that. So in the future, I'll keep that in mind. That
well, I mean, and based, just on my experience in this council alone, the Wade Creek Phase 3 has been well presented by multiple people, and I've seen the progression of Wade Creek Phase 3 through all the different presentations, and I find it very, very helpful when talking about how to develop parks and how it relates to our to our city's goals and the master plans and all of that. And I don't feel like that was enough. There was enough information given to tonight.
Definitely, the $4 million parks we're going to bring to the council for a lot of input, and this is a $100,000 park, and so we didn't really go into that much detail, but we certainly can do that in the future.
I know that $100,000 isn't a lot for a $13 million city budget, but for someone like me, $100,000 is still kind of a monumental decision sometimes. So thank you, Denise. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say before we ask for a motion?
My 2 cents, I feel like Councilor Dunsmuir brings up a lot of good points. I also feel like the Parks and Rec Committee, I'm confident they would take these into consideration as well too. It's their charge as a committee. My feeling is if they've recommended this park or the play structure, personally, I'm fine with moving ahead with it. Interested in other thoughts there.
I'm in the same boat. I agree. We have to trust our committees and commissions, even though we haven't had a liaison at a Parks and Recs meeting in a while. We appointed them to help us with these decisions, and if this is their recommendation, I'm very comfortable moving forward with it.
Out of curiosity, and I'm going to pose this question to all of you, not just one person. When we talk about the DEIC being a kind of a guiding committee of people who are going to help us develop policies that are going to be all inclusive, do you not think that the future, one of the future responsibilities of the DEIC might be also to take a look at some of these future parks plans, or the purchase of playground equipment in the future, to make sure that it is first and foremost all inclusive, as is their responsibility as a committee? Because if that's the case, then they have, as a committee, not had an opportunity to look over the proposed playground plan as it was presented to us tonight. And I have been looking at it through the lens. I know too many kids who are not physically capable the same as their peers. And I want to make sure that if there is going to be a city park or a neighborhood park that they can drive up to and use, that they have full access to it. And I as a person won't approve anything unless I have that guarantee.
Well, just looking at at the actual plans, not the 3D rendering, but looking at the actual plans, there's nothing there to make me believe that it's not completely accessible. So, and like I said, we appointed the Parks and Recs Committee, and if their decision is that this is a park that fits in our city guidelines and our council plans, then I don't see a problem with it. I mean, being a person who grew up in a family that was heavily involved in Special Olympics, we had, my grandparents had plenty of foster kids that were alter abled. I feel the same way. All the parks should be accessible to them. But if you want to halt a park so that a committee that hasn't been formed yet can look it over, then we need to stop Wade Creek Park also. We need to stop, Cazadero, whatever the other park that Denise had spoken about. I think that this park is at least the plans of this park, the actual plan is, like I said, it seems to be plenty accessible. And if the Parks and Recs commission that we appointed deems it accessible, then I feel we move forward with it.
Do we have a motion on the table?
I move to approve the purchase of the playground equipment for the unnamed park, Overlook Park play structure.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
I will second.
First and second. Questions on the floor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. That would be an opposition from me, Sadie, if you want to put that on the record. Okay.
I am gonna, though, even though you have approved it, I'm gonna talk to them and I'll get you some answers, Katie, on some better looks at that before we order it. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see wheelchair ramps going down into the area of the play structure as being inclusive.
But I'll get you some better looks.
Thank you. We are now on to our next opportunity for citizen and community group comments. Sadie, do we have anyone who wishes to speak? And by the way, if you're listening in or chiming in on your laptop, please raise your hand if you would like to speak. And make sure to state your name and address for the record.
Yes. So we have Joel Lidkey coming back in.
Joel Lidkey. Does he need to state his address again? Okay.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Good evening, Joel. Yes, we can hear you.
A couple things real quick. Just to touch on what you just were talking about. It's funny how with the cities talking so much about wanting to do this DEIC and inclusion and everything else, that they're so quick to approve something that they won't even take a second consideration to look at for people that may be handicapped. And so I'm kind of curious in how the council can be so quick to look at this DEIC group, but yet not be willing to at least reconsider, take a look and make sure before they approve something that it's actually handicap full accessible. Kind of frustrates me a little bit. I know kids in this town that are actually in wheelchairs that, based on what I saw, will not be able to use that park. So I don't see where the balance is and what this council's decisions are when it comes down to making those decisions, because it seems off balance to me. But that's just my input from what I just saw there. As far as the AAR that's being conducted by the citizens, that's one being put on by the Estacada Community Watch on Thursday, the 29th at 2 p.m. There's details on our website for it, but the entire community is invited to that, and we will be taking everybody's information and submitting a report to the city and for the council to review, so they can see from a citizen point what we saw and what we didn't see, and hopefully also capture some stuff that maybe wouldn't come to the council or to that public meeting due to their not feeling comfortable in that type of setting. So hopefully we can get a broad perspective as well. That's all I got.
Katie, you're muted.
Thank you very much, Jerry and Joel. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, sir?
Nope, I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much, Joel. And again, good luck to you on Tuesday and have a good evening. Thank you again. Sadie, is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Oh, wait, hold on before we get to the next person. My motion was incorrect. So I moved to approve purchasing the structure. What I didn't do was move to approve the contract for the overlook play structure. So that's the way the motion should have read. I moved to approve the contract for the overlook play structure, park play structure.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, so we have Frank George back in.
Hello.
Frank, see you again. Thank you very much. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Yes, I'll try to speak to everything that is on my mind, but this whole council business section is quite startling, I think. As an educator, that's my profession. I'm trained to handle many things. Two of those things is one, seeing diversity and equity put into place in every level of a professional work environment, especially for children. That also includes ADA guidelines and what it means to be all inclusive to people who are differently abled. Another thing that I'm trained to see is when my students are trying to evade accountability. That is something that I have learned to see very well. I think I would say so, not to give myself too much credit. Councillor Dunsmuir, I am very startled to see a pattern of your response to these issues that are coming up, where it's almost that you are hiding behind the effort for inclusivity so much that you will see the progress of city business halted entirely. As Councillor Tenbush so aptly pointed out, are we going to stall and halt all city building contracts because of every possible circumstance? Because especially in reference to a playground where full accessibility cannot be guaranteed to those who qualify for ADA protection. Furthermore, he also pointed out that the proper plan observations of the actual plan does indicate full ADA alignment. But what I see your language around the specific semantics of the DEIC description, it is already abundantly clear, as was pointed out with the such as language, that it is not fixated upon a single racial group or economic group, it is not fixed. It is not fixed. It is completely open to all people who reside in Estacada to be ensured that they have adequate representation. That's abundantly clear. But I see the strategy of seeming to be so sincere about inclusivity, but if we were to follow those considerations that you've put forward, would have potentially seen the DEIC not passed until after the election, and would not see this play structure be built when it is already perfectly aligned with ADA guidelines. So I find that very concerning, especially when there are council candidates up for election who are extremely opposed to the DEIC. I just find it very startling that that is the strategy, especially then paired with your interview with the Estacada News, where you seem very quick to say that you will be quick to determine whether the committee is effective, and if it's not, apparently by your standards, you'll see it dissolved. You said that if it doesn't prove effective, it will be immediately dissolved and there won't be any need. I think that it is very important that the committee be given longevity, because equity is not achieved in a day. America is proof of that. We have never achieved full equity in this country. We've spent 270 plus years fighting for it. To say that, oh, because we can't achieve perfection, we shouldn't even try, is an argument that has stood in the way of progress for diversity for the past 2 centuries and even beyond. That attitude of hiding behind the effort for perfection might seem ideal and might seem noble, but it creates more harm than good. And I am very concerned that that is the attitude of not only you, a sitting councilor, but also one of the major candidates for a new council position at this upcoming election. So I just find that very startling, and I want to make that known, that I think that it is, as somebody who hopes to be on this committee, I would be fulfilling my role in the future, were I to be appointed, by pointing out that that is some language that does not say that you are committed fully to equity, because you would see the cause for equity harmed and halted because it's not perfect. We can't guarantee that everyone will follow the law and not murder someone. So why criminalize murder? We can't make it 100% perfect. Somebody's going to kill somebody. Why bother? Because regardless of whether we can enforce it to perfection, we need to enforce it to the best of our ability. That is the role of government, to be done to the best of its ability. And it will always be flawed, but it must never stop working. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you very much for your words tonight, sir. Sadie, do we have anyone else?
We do. We have Nicole again.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you, Nicole. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Councilor Dunsmuir. I would like to touch on what Joel brought up a little bit earlier regarding the Diversity and Inclusion Committee being rushed through. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in this meeting, it was brought up that this is actually the second consideration for this committee. As well as, I believe Denise, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, mentioned that it has been amended for folks with disabilities. Again, that's just a concern. And also, everybody has announced their name and address, but Joel did not at any time that he has been in this meeting announce his address. I just wanted to point that out. And I think that is all the concerns I have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Sadie, can we please make sure that we get Joel Litkey's address as part of the record? I'm sure that if we go back to the last several council meetings, we can find it in the minutes there.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And now we have Brooklyn Gaith.
Brooklyn, welcome back.
All right, hello. I first, I don't think I did say my address in the first one. I live at 29980 Southeast Lawrence Road. I just wanted to second everything that Frank said, and just kind of add on to it a little bit. There's a perception that racism isn't a problem in our community, and I think that was kind of echoed by Joel in several articles that he did with the Estacada News and statements that he made in previous council meetings. And I think to say that racism is not a problem is so naive. And I think, I don't mean to be frank here, but that coming from a white man is not shocking. It's really hard, or it's really easy to miss something when it doesn't affect you. And it's really easy to pass judgment on something that you don't understand. This community does have a lot of racism. Not every single person in this community is racist. We all know that. But there are a lot of racist tendencies, and there are a lot of things that need to be fixed and addressed. And I think that this council, or this committee that's being proposed, is a really great way to kind of get in front of it and start to change the reputation of our town, because that is what people see when they think of Estacada. We all know the nicknames about Estacada. I'm sitting in Portland right now. We all know what people think of us out here. We need to be open about the issues that we have, and we need to admit that we have a problem and we need to address it. And I just think that by saying these things were rushed and that they might not be necessary, or that we have bigger issues, it's not right. And we can focus on multiple things at once. We can focus on the fire, and we can focus on racial inequality. It doesn't have to be one or the other. We can do both simultaneously. And I guess that's kind of all I wanted to say. I just wanted to kind of voice my support for the committee. I know that there are a lot of people in town who don't agree with it. And I just wanted to go on record and say that I am all for the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee. I think it's wonderful. I think it's an amazing first step for this community. And I, for one, am actually really excited to see what they do and what they bring to our committee, or into our community.
Thank you very much, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for joining us this evening. Sadie, do we have anyone else?
Yes. Kristi Maret again.
Okay. Kristi, you are muted if you need to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Kristi. You have 5 minutes.
First of all, Councilor Katie, I would like to say thank you. I agree with everything you've been saying tonight. I agree that we need to take things slow and be very precise in what we do and what we say. Second, my question, I submitted a question, but it never, I don't know if it got seen or answered, or shutting down the forest during certain instances during the year. For that gentleman, I want to know what that's going to do for the people in our community who rely on hunting and fishing. It could be a week, it could be 10 days. I realize that our forest is going to be shut down for a long time, but I want to know what that's going to look like for our people who depend on hunting and fishing. And third, Brooklyn's statement about Joel being a white man, that was racist. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Kristi, and thank you for joining us this evening. Sadie, do we have anyone else? Okay. Okay. Well, we will move on to mayor and council reports and comments. I will start with you, Councilor Abels.
I wasn't expecting to go first. Yeah, I just want to say how much I have enjoyed being a part of this council, and I know we are headed into next couple of weeks that could be pretty intense, and I hope that we can all remember we have the best of Estacada. Everybody wants the best for our city, and I hope that as no matter which way things go, we can continue to come together, continue to have conversations, continue to keep the ball moving, and to continue to be respectful of one another, and to keep our conversations civil and respectful, and maintain the level of integrity that we hope to get from our community members. I've enjoyed getting to know each and every one of you and working together and seeing how the city works a little bit more up close. And I appreciate all of the hard work that you do. I appreciate all of our community as they've come together and as they continue to be engaged and want to be a part of our community and city government. I think we're moving in a great direction, and I hope that we can all continue down that path. And you've not seen the last of me, I promise.
Thank you, Councillor Abels. I look forward to your future involvement with the city as well. Councillor Tenbush.
Forgive me if I cry a little here. I know I didn't vote for Kimberly when we appointed the new council, but that was a mistake on my part. She has been absolutely amazing since she came on board. And honestly, she's more qualified to do this than any of us. Kimberly, I just want you to know how much I truly appreciate you and everything that you've brought to this council. And you know, it's been good getting to know you a little bit, and it was really nice meeting you in person the other day. That was pretty cool at the Wildfire Heroes event. So, but I want to thank everybody that came out and spoke tonight. I know it's taking time out of your lives. You know, it's what we do, and you know, like Kimberly said, we're trying to make this, trying to make Estacada the best place for everybody. Everybody that lives here, everybody wants the best for it. But I appreciate all the opinions and all the comments. And city staff, of course, again, you guys are amazing. We couldn't even come close to doing this without you guys. So thank you guys very much. And good job tonight, Katie. You did good.
Thank you, Jerry. And on to you, Councillor Strobel.
I just wanted to really echo what Jerry was saying. Thanks to all who participated this evening. Really appreciate the input of people. I hear throughout the week people commenting how much they watch the Zoom meetings. So this seems to be a really successful way to get the word out to what's going on out there. So appreciate that. So thank you, and thank you to the staff for getting this going together tonight. And again, great job, Katie, for leading us tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
thank you,
hey, Katie, real quick before you get started, can I ask a question of Denise and Sadie? After COVID, once we're back to normal and doing these meetings in person, can we see if there's a way that we can do this, continue having our meetings on Zoom so that we keep getting this interaction? Because I really fear that once we go back to in-person council meetings that we're going to lose a lot of the audience. There's people that aren't going to take the time to come. They're not going to take time out of their night to drive down to City Hall. So hopefully there's a way that we can, you know, include this a Zoom style meeting or something to get more interaction from the community after COVID. But that's all. Thank you very much. Just something to consider.
Thank you, Councillor. I guess I'll close out the evening by saying thank you for letting me, preside over this meeting. I'm sorry to Mayor Drinkwine who couldn't be here tonight. I wish everybody luck on Tuesday. I will let everybody know that I have shut my Facebook down, or I've at least deleted it from my phone and my computers for right now. I'm taking a break until after the election. I just want to remind everybody that this has been a very contentious election season, campaign season, and when it's all said and done, we need to continue to be kind to each other. I think that it's great that people are wanting to get involved. I want to encourage continued involvement no matter what the results of the election are. We have several committees and commissions within our city that really could use your volunteer time if you can spare it, including the Diversity and Equity and Inclusionary Committee that we just approved tonight. That being said, thank you everyone in Estacada for being respectful of each other, for engaging in conversation in a very human-like manner that, again, really sees that every person has their own opinion and has a right to their own opinion. And I encourage those conversations on a respectful level. And thank you again very much to everybody. Thank you, city staff. Thank you, councilors. Have a great evening and happy election day to all of you. This meeting is adjourned.